Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crowd Chatter Podcast. Today, we are back for the first time in a while. Apologize for the long absence, but things happen. But we are back today, and you can take a wild guess by the jersey and by what you see on the screen. It's March Madness time, and it is a beautiful time of the year. I absolutely love watching March Madness. It is so much fun. We have the very first four game in about a little over 30 minutes. Meant to do this well before that, but didn't get a chance until now. So we are doing this now. Um, we're gonna just rip right into this. Obviously, I've been gone for a while. Like I said, obviously been busy. Um, so we will get some more videos going out soon. In fact, next week is going to be pretty much the start of the baseball season, so we will be getting into that next week. Well, by we I mean me. We'll be getting into that next week. I'll probably do that on Monday. I'll be going into that, and I'll be reviewing all the MLB teams. And going through all of that, we'll see how that goes. Um, let's, all right. So we'll get into this. We'll start with the first game. Sorry, I got something with work. Uh, First game on here. I'm just gonna start in the top left. Go kind of like how they did on the selection show. Top left, go to top right, then bottom right, bottom left. So starting with Duke and Siena, I don't think we really have to question this one. And I actually being And by the end of these picks, once you make your selections for your NCAA tournament, I will link in the description down below. I will link the podcast challenge. So if you want to join me, Sam, and Swerve in our quest for being for having the best bracket, please do. There is a is free invite. We will all be in. It'll be in the description down below. So help yourself. But Duke, I think, obviously will take care of business against Siena. I really don't see why they don't. Then you have Ohio State and TCU. This should be a very fun game. These are both in Greenville on the 19th. Greenville, South Carolina. Ohio State, I think, is just a slightly better team here. I, I don't. I mean, I saw us play TCU. That team didn't even beat New Orleans earlier in the year. And yes, we looked bad. And yes, they nearly beat us. We also played really one of our worst games of the season, and we still beat them. Now they've been a different team, a better team really since then. But to me, I think Ohio State has a little bit more in them. Bruce Thornton is a very good long time player for the Buckeyes and has been pretty consistent for them. They also got a big guy who can shoot the lights out. I think I don't think either of these teams are getting past Duke, so who really cares? But I think Ohio State will get the privilege of probably getting spanked by the Blue Devils. Um, then we have St. John's taking on Northern Iowa. I believe this is the first appearance for the what was it, Northern Iowa Panthers. This is the first appearance for them since the upset over Texas back in 2018, or I'm sorry, 2016. They're not going to be the ones upsetting St. John's. I'm not a big St. John's believer, but I do think St. John's is a better team. I think they'll get the win here, and then I'm not going to take too long with this one. Kansas is one of those wild card teams in this NCAA tournament because Kansas could very easily beat anybody with how much talent they have on their team. With Darren Peterson being there, he's been on and off with injuries, but if he's actually healthy, this Kansas team can be very, very scary. Um, but of course, he has to be healthy, and I'm not sure he's really healthy. Again, if he's healthy, they're going to be very tough to beat. But if he's not, I don't know how far Kansas will go. It all depends on Peterson's health, and I'm just not sure where that is right now. And speaking of these really talented freshmen in health, one thing about this season, I never really did a preview video for this season, but This year for like really for big time freshmen is off the charts. It is insane, and they're all over the place. Louisville has another one, and much like Darren Peterson, who might be the number one overall pick, he also has problems staying healthy. Um, so we'll see. Louisville and Kansas, I think, both is major league dependent on how healthy they are. If they're healthy, I think they can very much beat uh you know almost anybody. But that depends on how healthy they are. Now for Louisville, it has been said that Michael Brown uh hopes to play in the NCAA tournament. It seems like he really wants to do that. So we'll see if he does. Again, he's such a wild card that I just don't know what I'm going to get out of him. Maybe he does play, maybe he doesn't. Like I don't know. If he plays, I think it would be, very, very good for Louisville. They obviously very much need him. It does say that he hopes to return, but it really, to me, is like if you really want to play, you'll be back. So I'm making this pick with the assumption that Michael Brown will be back. Brown has been electric since be in every game that he's played for them. So I think Louisville will beat USF. It is a very popular upset pick, so I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen, especially if Brown doesn't play. But I'm going to go under the assumption that Brown plays. I'll take Louisville to survive. And then I have Sparty beating North. I have Michigan State beating North Dakota State. Not much to really say there. I think Michigan State's just a better team. UCLA and UCF. UCF's a decent team. I just like UCLA a little bit better in this matchup. I think UCLA is just a little bit better. They looked really good in the Big Ten tournament. I also just think they're a simply better team. These are in Philadelphia on the 20th. I forgot to mention that with the other ones. With Michigan State, they'll be in Buffalo on the 19th, and then San Diego for St. John's and Kansas on the 20th. These are also on the 20th. They are in Philadelphia. But I think UCLA is better, is a little bit better than UCF. I think it'll be a fun game, but I think UCLA gets it done in the end. And then I think UConn, of course, will beat Furman. They haven't looked too good down the stretch here, but I think UConn's still a better team, obviously, in the Furman Paladins. So I'll take UConn to get the win there. And then we go to the next region, which I believe the last one was the East region. Yes. I'm pretty sure, yeah, Florida's the South. So we have our first four game. This is also not the one playing tonight, but we have our first four game, and that is Prairie View A&M and Lehigh. So I gotta go find that game. I know I put it way down here somewhere. There it is. Um. Oh, so we're on this end, but Prairie View A&M and Lehigh. I'm gonna be real. I know nothing about these two teams. I honestly haven't even hardly heard of Prairie View A&M. I have really no idea who that is. Um, I have heard of Lehigh, and that's mostly because that is the home of CJ McCollum and the team that, well, who was when they were last in the tournament, ended up actually upsetting Duke as a 15 seed. So that's the only reason I've ever really heard of Lehigh. Um, as for just Lehigh as a team, I know nothing about them or Prairie View A&M. These two have very, very comparable records, but looking at just like statistics for these two, um, I would say that Lehigh is probably at a little. These two are pretty evenly matched on paper, but Lehigh seems to be a team that depends a lot more on the 3-point line. And typically, teams like that in March play better. Uh, and typically, teams like that in March, especially if they're underdog teams, like a 16 seed, they tend to do a little bit better. So I'm just going to say the 3-point shooting team gets it done. Um, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, whoever wins that game is going to get pasted by Florida. Florida's a way better team than either one of them. It really doesn't matter. But I think Lehigh will get the privilege of getting spanked by the Gators. Clemson and Iowa. this should be fun. Neither one of these teams really lit it up in their conference. Iowa definitely fell apart down the stretch, as they both of them actually. Both of these teams really kind of collapsed down the stretch. Neither one of them really lit the world on fire, which is how they both ended up at 8 and 9. It's been a better year actually in the ACC. It hasn't been as just kind of dead as it has been in previous years. But I am going to take Clemson in this one. I've watched Iowa a couple times. They're very dependent on threes. I think Clemson has a slight edge here. It'll be close. It'll be tight, but I'll give it to the Tigers here. Close game, but I think Clemson gets it done. Those will be in Tampa, Florida. Home game for the Gators. Then we have in Oklahoma City, we have the 5 and 12 Vanderbilt. Very big surprise with how good they've been this year. 26 and 8. They'll be facing McNeese State, who just last year, speaking of Clemson, pulled the upset on the Clemson Tigers as a 12 seed just last year. Had a very good season, and now here they are again trying to do the exact same thing in OKC. I don't remember where they were when they upset Clemson, but I don't think McNeese State is going to get it done this year. I think Vandy gets the win. Vanderbilt has a very good looking team. I think Vandy will get it done. It could be a fun game. McNeese State obviously was good last year. I don't think they'll do it twice in a row, but they might give Vanderbilt a run for their money. And then next in our next matchup here, we have Nebraska taking on Troy. And this will be my first upset pick of the tournament. I'm taking Troy in this one. Troy has a bunch of big men who are very good at has a bunch of big guys and they can really rebound the basketball. Nebraska is terrible at rebounding and they are wholly dependent on three-point shooting. Now, yes, I did say with Lehigh that 3-point shooting teams tend to do a little bit better in March Madness. They tend to if they get going, say they get going, yeah, good luck with that because it tends to go a little bit further into the tournament. Yeah, well, Nebraska isn't coming off of any momentum at all, and like I said, in basically every matchup that they've lost, rebounding has been their absolute kryptonite. And Troy is an outstanding team at rebounding the basketball. I think this is a terrible matchup for the Huskers. They've had a very good season, and it's been very fun, but I do think Troy gets it done here, pulls a shocker, and knocks off the fourth-seeded Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now we have North Carolina and VCU. This is where I'll take another upset. I would have taken North Carolina in this game if it wasn't for the fact Caleb Wilson is out for the year. That is basically the heart and soul of the Tar Heel team. And without him, I don't think North Carolina is the same team. I think they will more than likely end up losing this one to VCU. I'm not really sure how good VCU is, but North Carolina I just don't think has what it takes without Caleb Wilson. There's a devastating injury, and I think they'll take their hopes down with it. Very popular upset pick, I'm sure. Illinois against Penn. I'm taking Illinois. I don't care if Penn is now coached by Fran McCaffrey, who used to be the Iowa coach, getting to play another Big Ten team again. But I don't think Illinois is losing to the Penn Quakers. Um, Give me the Illini to win this one. I think they take care of business and do what they need to do. Next we have St. Mary's going on. I actually went just straight down, but oh well. Next we have St. Mary's and Texas A&M. This should be another fun one. These are also in OKC. Um, these should be some very fun games. This should be a fun game. These are two teams with very contrasting styles. Texas A&M likes to go quick. They want to run up the floor. St. Mary's wants to slow down the tempo immensely. I think Texas A&M is just a bit of a better team. I just WBC teams do not impress me. I mean, you play in a conference where basically nobody's any good. Now, this year there are three teams that are in the NCAA tournament again, with Santa Clara joining the mix along with St. Mary's and Gonzaga. But I'm not a big believer in these small, um, you know, WBC teams. I think St. Mary's will make it tough on Texas A&M, but I just think Texas A&M is a better team. I think Texas, or I don't know about better team, but I just think they'll probably beat them. And Houston will take on the Idaho, whatever they are, Vandals, or I don't know what Idaho is, but I think Houston will win this one. This is Idaho's first appearance in an NCAA tournament since 1990. So it has been quite the wait for Idaho. But I don't think it'll end well for them. I think Houston is a much better basketball team, and they will take down Idaho. Move on to the second round. Now, we'll go to the other end. I'm going to go round by round. So since I goofed there, I'll just go and do it like this. Arizona taking on Long Island. Long Island is, well, a 16 seed, and Arizona is a much better basketball team. These are in San Diego, California. I think Arizona's going to win this one. No problem. Villanova taking on Utah State. Both of these are solid teams. Personally, I like Kevin Willard coach teams, which is what Villanova is. So therefore, I will take Villanova to win this one. I like Nova's team. Like I said, Kevin Willard coach squad. They are very physical. They're very tough. They don't quit, and I think that'll be enough to beat a Utah State team that's done pretty well in the Mountain West. It should be a fun game, but I do think Villanova is just going to be a little bit better in this one. Wisconsin and High Point. High Point nearly had the upset last year as a 13 seed taking on Purdue. Fell a hair short. I think this year they actually get it done. Give me the 12 seed to beat Wisconsin, beat the Badgers, and get the upset. Like I said, last year they didn't get it done. They're gonna want it this year. They're ticked off they couldn't get it done a season ago. Wisconsin is extremely hot and cold. They've been all over the place. I've seen them look good. I've seen them look terrible. So who knows what I'm going to get out of the Badgers, but High Point has looked awesome all year long. I think they get this done. They pull the upset on Wisconsin. Yes, I don't like the Badgers. Yes, this kind of looks like a screw you Wisconsin because they won over 3 losses. But trust me, this is just what I actually think. I think High Point gets it done after just a hair short last year in their first ever appearance. This is their second now second in a row and second ever. So I think they get it done this time and they knock off Wisconsin. And then I do think Arkansas will take down Hawaii. I like Arkansas's team a lot. These guys are extremely talented. Uh, I think the Razorbacks will get it done against the Rainbow Warriors. Another team with a very highly touted freshman like Arizona that we saw earlier. Arkansas's got one as well. This is a very good freshman class. The amount of freshmen in the amount of great freshmen right now are absolutely off the walls. Illinois has another one. Uh, I talked about Arizona, Louisville, and Kansas, and Duke. I mean, the list goes on with just the amount of highly touted freshmen there are, and it just doesn't end. And speaking of highly touted freshmen, here's another one. BYU will take on the winner of NC State and Texas. Um, this is another game where it should be very interesting. This is actually going to be tonight between Texas and NC State. I do think both of these teams are actually pretty good. Texas has looked solid all year long. NC State, one of the top teams for a while actually in the ACC. I was kind of surprised they fell this far, having to play a first four game to get into the NCAA tournament as NC State did finish at 10-8 in the ACC. Now coached by Will Wade. Texas now coached by the former Xavier coach Sean Miller. Both of these teams are decent, but to me, I'm gonna take NC State. I think they're a little bit better. Texas has not looked really that sharp in the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry, in this season. They looked okay, but I just think NC State is a little bit better. Um, so I will go with the Wolfpack to take this one. And for this game, I know BYU is missing Richie Saunders, and I know a lot of people are going to get scared away by that, but I like AJ Dembonsa. That guy is an absolute monster. I think BYU is going to do it. I think they get NC State, they get the better of them, and they move on. Gonzaga will beat Kennesaw State. As much as I'd love to pick Kennesaw State, Gonzaga's not losing to Kennesaw State. Um, Next year we have, or not next year. Next here we have Miami, Florida taking on Missouri. Miami, Florida's had a really good year. I'm very high on the Hurricanes this year. I'm taking Miami, Florida to win this one and move on. Missouri's a good team. They're a solid team. Don't get me wrong, but Miami, Florida really uh, completely just made their complete makeover of their team and has been outstanding this year. Played very well in the ACC. I love what Miami, Florida has. I think the Hurricanes not will beat Missouri, even if it is a home game for even if it is very much a home game for the Missouri Tigers, I do think the Hurricanes still get it done in the road environment, and they'll face the Purdue Boilermakers in the second round because there's no way Purdue loses the Queens, right? No way they actually lose the Queens, like right? Like I'm legitimately asking, but they shouldn't lose to Queens. Uh, I do think Queens is in their first ever tournament appearance, but I do think that Purdue gets it done. Next, we have my Michigan Wolverines. They'll be taking on the winner of the game that is now on in 13 minutes, and that is Howard and UMBC. Now, you've probably heard of Howard, and you probably now have a little bit of a remembrance of the previous name of UMBC, because if you remember the last time they were in the tournament, they actually beat Virginia in 2018. They are the first 16 seed to ever do it, and now they will look to become the only 16 seed to do it twice if they win tonight. And personally, I'm looking at when I looked at these two. Um, I kind of looked at these guys and I kind of saw a little bit of a bigger team for UMBC. Couple forwards who can certainly do some damage. Howard, more of a guard oriented team. Teams that really are small in the tournament have problems and really struggle to kind of get boards. And I think with a team like UMBC, who has bigger guys, can shoot it very well as well. I'm actually going to take the Terriers and UMBC. I think they move on and will play Michigan in the first round, and they'll look to yet again beat a number one seed. Now, fortunately for the Wolverines, we are way too good for that. We'll beat the brakes off of UMBC. We will easily take care of that one, move on to the second round. Not an interesting one. We have Georgia and St. Louis. St. Louis had a really good year this year. They looked awesome in the Atlantic 10. Georgia had a solid year in the SEC yet again. Exact same spot actually on the bracket as last year. They were the 9 seed in this matchup against Gonzaga last year. This year they are the 8 seed in this matchup, taking on St. Louis instead. Sorry. Um, but I do think these are two good teams. I think it really, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. But St. Louis is led by one big guy, and Georgia has guys I think that can neutralize that. Both of these teams like to score. There's not going to be a lot of defense, but I think Georgia has a little bit more in them. And I'm actually going to take the Bulldogs to move on, beat St. Louis, and go to the second round to face the Michigan Wolverines. Now, here's a really interesting part of this bracket because these are, in my opinion, by far the biggest wild cards of this tournament. First, we have Texas Tech taking on Akron. I have no idea what to expect here. There's a good chance that Texas could beat the absolute crap out of Akron, and there's a good chance that Akron ends up being Texas Tech. Texas Tech could borderline win the entire thing, and they could just lose in the first round. I don't know. And the same goes for Alabama. So I have no clue what to expect out of these two. But if I legitimately am getting the best out of these teams, I think both of them easily win their matchups. Because when I see these two playing at their best, Texas Tech and Alabama both are absolutely awesome. Now, I know both of these teams are dealing with issues. Texas Tech, obviously, without JT Toppin due to the torn ACL. And if I'm being real, like, listen, he obviously plays a big role for Texas Tech. He's been very good for him. I honestly, I think Texas Tech can survive without him. And I mean, we already saw that they waltzed into Ames, Iowa, and beat the Stu of an Iowa State team, who's a two seed in this region. So, yeah, missing JT kind of sucks, but it ain't the end of the world for Texas Tech. I think they easily. I mean, they beat Duke, they beat Arizona, they beat Iowa State, they beat Houston. I mean, who did they not beat? So Texas Tech has arguably the best resume of any seed that's below a 4. And I think that could be devastating if that's the team that we end up seeing in the tournament. But that all obviously without JT Toppin, we'll see how that goes. As for Alabama, they are a heavy 3-point shooting team. They launched the three ball at will, one of the highest scoring actually the highest scoring team in college basketball. Georgia, I mentioned earlier, is number 5, and I think St. Louis is up there as well. But the highest scoring team in college basketball, they launched the three ball and they hit it at an absolutely ridiculous rate. Very, very good offensively. If they are shooting the three ball well, good luck. And then next we have the Tennessee Volunteers taking on the winner of the other first 4 game, the last one I'm going to pick here, which is Miami, Ohio, and SMU. Miami, Ohio, one of the craziest runs we have ever seen out of a team. 31 and 0, undefeated regular season, lost the first game of the MAC tournament, still made it as the last team in the NCAA tournament due to, of course, the very good record. They will now face SMU. Cool story. They're not beating SMU. You look at their schedule; they have played absolutely nobody. And listen, I get it. You let them in because they didn't lose a single game in their entire regular season, and that should be rewarded. Yeah, I get that. And then it's hard to say, oh, they lost one game, and they lost one game. How dare they? Like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, this is not a good team. But I think SMU's gonna beat them. It could be tight. I mean, now it's not like SMU's some powerhouse or anything, but I think SMU will knock off the Red Hawks, and then Tennessee will take care of business against SMU. I love this Tennessee team. Jacoby Gillespie is an outstanding veteran guard. Been in the college for a handful of years now. Been there, done that. Been in the tournament, done that. And then with Nate Ament is one of the better freshmen in college basketball as well. And they got plenty of pieces around them. I think Tennessee is going to take care of biz. Virginia taking on Wright State. Wright State is big for a Horizon League team. They are not big for a normal team. Virginia's way bigger, way better. I think they will very much handle uh, the Wright State. What was it, Huskies? I don't know. But I think Virginia takes care of business. They knock off Wright State and move on. Kentucky taking on Santa Clara. Second year in the last, I think, like 13 years or something that 3 teams have been included out of WBC. The last time was San Francisco when they made it with St. Mary's and Gonzaga. Um, this should be fun. I to me, I don't love Santa Clara's team. Like I said, I don't like WBC teams at all, and you're gonna find out that I really don't like WBC teams. Um, but I don't really think that the WBC, like I said, is just not really that good of a conference. But Kentucky also has not been good this year, so I could legitimately see Santa Clara doing it. Like I said, I don't really care for Kentucky, or I don't really care for the WBC either. I think it's flip a coin. I think I'll just give it to Kentucky. It's just to me, bigger conference, better team. But, who cares? Flip a coin. I don't think either of them beats Iowa State. They move on. I think Iowa State takes care of biz against Tennessee State. And then you got that. But now we go to the second round, otherwise known as the round of 32. We'll start in the top left. We'll just do the same thing I did last time, just because that's what I did the other time. Kind of by accident, but oh well. Um, Duke and Ohio State. I mentioned that earlier when I mentioned this earlier when I took TCU. I just think either one who wins will get the privilege of getting spanked by Duke. I think Duke will spank Ohio State. St. John's in Kansas, again, depends on the health of Darren Peterson, but I think Kansas, if they have Darren Peterson, easily should take care of St. John's. Move on to face the Duke Blue Devils. I love the freshmen this year. The freshmen in this class are absolutely insane. And as long as they have great freshmen, as long as they have him, along with the pieces around him, I think Kansas is tough to beat. St. John's is a good team, but I just think Kansas will be better with Darren Peterson. And similar story depends on the health of Michael Brown, but I do think with Louisville, with a Michael Brown who's healthy, they win. I have Louisville moving on to take on, I have Louisville moving on, beating Michigan State in the second round. Ryan Conwell and Michael Brown will give Michigan State all kinds of problems. Louisville has a very good 3-point shooting team. I think they can. I think they beat the Sparties, assuming they have Michael Brown. Even without Michael Brown, I like Ryan Conwell a lot. I think he could definitely make things tough on the Spartans. And then between UConn and UCLA, I mentioned for UConn how they have been kind of falling apart down the stretch. Um, I think they will lose to UCLA. That's got another upset here. UCLA is dealing with a little bit of some injuries, but I still think that UCLA should be able to beat UConn. Uh, UConn's got a good team. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, they kind of been falling apart down the stretch. They've been little bit on the rougher side. But UCLA have some injuries in the Big Ten tournament, but all of them were pretty minor. They all should be back. I think UCLA beats UConn. They go to the Sweet 16 to face the Louisville Cardinals. Florida and Clemson. I like Florida in this one. I mentioned it earlier. Clemson kind of similarly was not good down the stretch. I think Florida's a better team. They get the win here. Vandy and Troy, I like Vandy's team. I don't think I have to really explain this one. I mean, yeah, Troy got the win against Nebraska, but I think Vandy's been very good this year. Very tough to, very tough to really say with the Commodores, but yeah, been great. I mean, it's hard to argue it. But Illinois and VCU, I like Illinois in this one. I really like Illinois' team. They launch the three ball. They do it with great success. They're a very good basketball team. I like the Illini. Yes, I'm flying through this. I'm not trying to take too much time with these picks. Expand a little bit, but not go too crazy in depth with it either. Texas A&M Houston. Houston has another really elite freshman. Uh, they're actually still pretty good defensively. It's a little bit different. They still let up some points here and there, pretty good, but not as elite as it used to be. But it can be had defensively, but Houston can also score offensively, which will make which makes them a really fun team. I think Houston gets a Sweet 16. They take down Texas A&M. Going to the second round on the other end of the bracket, Arizona and Villanova. I have mentioned before I like Kevin Willard coach teams. Um, I don't like it more than Arizona. Arizona is a really good basketball team. It's tough to go against the Wildcats. I'm taking Arizona here. Um, Next we have High Point taking on Arkansas. I like Arkansas to win this one. High Point's a good team. They beat Wisconsin, but I don't think they're beating Arkansas. I have the Razorbacks getting the win here. They knock off High Point. Then moving on, we have BYU and Gonzaga. Here's where I'm taking another upset. I'm taking BYU in this one. BYU, I like AJ Denbansa. I mean, it really is kind of like a two-man team. between Demonsa and Robert Wright, but they do have other guys that can make plays, and I think they can certainly take down a Gonzaga team that's missing good time, which is missing big time players. So I got BYU in an upset. And then similarly to the other region where I took a 6 and a 7, I'm doing it again here. Give me Miami, Florida. I love this team. Miami, Florida with Trey Donaldson, Malik Renew, Ernest Uday. I think that's how his name is pronounced. They got an all transfer team. They kind of threw it all together, and man, does it look good. I love Miami, Florida in this matchup. I think they knock off the Boilermakers. They go to Sweet 16 to play BYU. Moving down to Michigan's region, we have Michigan and Georgia. Georgia loves to score, but Michigan's had a tough defense, and I don't think Georgia's really seen anything like that. We are getting underway in Dayton between Howard and UMBC. So I'm going to try and go through this one a little bit faster because I don't want to miss any of it. Well, I'm going to miss some of it, but I won't miss much of it. But Michigan, Georgia, I'm taking my Wolverines. Yes, I'm a Michigan fan. Yes, it kind of seems like a homer pick. I don't care. It is Michigan. It's also Georgia. I think Michigan takes the win here. Next, we have Texas Tech and Alabama. I think this will be a very fun game, very close, very tight. You know, obviously, like I said, two wild card teams. Who knows what you're going to get out of either of them, but I'm going to take Alabama. Alabama can really shoot that three ball. Um, Obviously, like I said, both of them missing guys. Bama with the Aiden Holloway issues. Who knows how much he's going to play or if he's going to play. Texas Tech, no JT Toppin. But I think Alabama gets the win here. They go to Chicago to take on the Michigan Wolverines. Tennessee and Virginia. I have mentioned many times in this video. I'm going to continue to mention it. I love the freshmen this year. I love Nate Ament. I love basically all of them. Virginia's had an outstanding season, and it's very hard to pick against these guys because they actually have been awesome. They have some big guys. I think they could make some noise in this tournament. I just don't think it's going to be against Tennessee. I think this is just the Tennessee's got they're really they're really well coached. Virginia has the guy who actually won it for UMBC against Virginia, ironically enough. Um, but I think for Tennessee, I think they get it done. They're similar style to Virginia. I mean, Virginia is a little bit more offensive now than they used to be, but I think Tennessee will get the better of Virginia in Philly, and they'll head to Chicago. And then between Kentucky and Iowa State, I think it's definitely going to be Iowa State in this one. The Cyclones. Kentucky is just not that special this year. They're okay, but you know they got Santa Clara, so that's why I took them. But Iowa State will beat them. They go to Sweet 16 to take on Tennessee. So now we get to the Sweet 16. These games are going to be are going to be even more interesting. Starting up on the top here, we have Duke and Kansas. Kansas has a really good freshman in Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson is absolutely incredible, and it's hard to go against Darren Peterson. The only problem with that is Duke has a lot of really good players. Yes, they're missing some of them, and you know, Ngamba. I'm probably butchering his pronunciation, but he looks awesome. He was a good player, and then they also don't have Caleb Foster, but it's Duke. It's stinking Cam Boozer, and yeah, like I know they're missing guys. I know. I think Duke's just still a better team overall. There's no way I'm taking anything other than the Duke Blue Devils. Louisville and UCLA. Uh, it depends on whether Michael Brown's healthy. I mean, if he's healthy, I legitimately think that it's going to be tough to beat him. But with with UCLA, I mean, both of them are solid teams. I just think with Michael, I mean, this is again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Freshman teams, I think, are going to be guys with really good freshmen are going to be among the best teams in the tournament this year. So I'm going to take Louisville. Depends on Michael Brown's health, but I'm picking this based off of the fact that I think Michael Brown's going to be healthy. So based off of him being healthy, I'm taking Louisville to knock off UCLA. So now heading over to the next region here, I have Florida and Vandy. We saw this matchup actually in the SEC semifinal, and Vandy got the win in that one. Went to the championship game, lost to Arkansas. I don't think history repeats itself. Florida Gators get done this time. They learned they got Vandy got the better of them, and they're certainly a really good team. Honestly, I do think that Florida, or I'm sorry, that Vandy does have a very good basketball team, and I am running out of charge. Well, crud. Um, let's see. What does it say I got? Oh, 45 minutes? No, I'll be fine. Um, well, I got, like I said, Florida Gators. I think they just get a little bit more on the, a little bit more than the Vandy Commodores. Oh, well, that works too. Thank you. Um, I think they'll just get slightly more than Vandy has. Good basketball team for the Gators, but I'm sorry for the Commodores. Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm trying to plug this in now. Um, I think that Vandy has had a great season, and it's not one to be forgotten. But I think that Florida's that's going to be a little bit better in this matchup, and they take down Vanderbilt, Illinois, and Houston. Um, I love Houston. And I'm a big Kelvin Sampson guy. Dude is a wizard on defense. And this year, ironically, they actually have a good offensive team. But you've always heard the best defense is a great offense. And Illinois might have one of the best ones in the country. And Houston's defense has been great. And this is in Houston, Texas. So you'd think this would be like the best home field advantage for the Cougars you can possibly get. But Illinois rains those three balls, and honestly, Houston's defense has been good, but there's actually some holes in it more than so than usual this year. So I'm taking Illinois. I think the Illini get it done. They take down the Gators. I'm sorry, not the Gators. They take down the Cougars. Excuse me. And they move on to the Elite Eight. Then in the Arizona region, we have the Wildcats and the Razorbacks. Um, listen, it's gonna be Arizona. I love Arkansas. They got a good team, but Arizona has way too many weapons. They're an outstanding basketball team. I think Arizona will get it done. They move on to the Elite Eight. They take down Arkansas. Then in our other Sweet 16 game, we have BYU and Miami, Florida. Now, I have said before I love AJ Dembansa. I think he's a great player. I also love the Miami Hurricanes, man. These guys, the all transfer team from the Big Ten and from the Big 12 with Ernest Uday. Um, yeah, I'm taking Miami in this one. I think Miami makes a little bit of a run. They continue going. Take down BYU, who's sorely missing Richie Saunders, but they'll still get far enough to get there. Um, U moves on. They go to the Elite Eight. And yes, you can probably figure out who's here now. So moving on to the other to the to oh, guess who? The Wolverines region. Uh, Michigan taking on Alabama. Who else do you think I'm picking, guys? Let's be real here. I'm wearing Michigan gear. Can you really expect me to pick anybody else? I will be honest. I do think that'll be a very fun game. Alabama can lay it up from beyond the arc, like I said earlier. Very good 3-point shooting team. Uh, who knows what happens with Aiden Holloway? Obviously, that'll be a big storyline to watch in the next few days with his whatever it was that happened that got him arrested. I don't even remember. Um, but I think the Wolverines will get done and move on to the Elite Eight here. And next we have Tennessee and Iowa State. I'm not an Iowa State believer. They got this far because they beat Tennessee State and a kind of lacking Kentucky team. They're not going to beat the other Tennessee team. I got the Volunteers taking them down. Moving on to the Elite Eight to take on the Michigan Wolverines in what should be another electric matchup. Um, but going to the other matchups here, other games, ACC game, the Elite Eight, we have Duke and Louisville. Um, yeah, I don't know about Louisville this far. I don't know about Final Four. Duke will get the win here. I think they move on. Yes, they don't have their center and they're missing Caleb Foster, but it's still Duke. So it is hard for me to say no to the Blue Devils. I think they go and move on to the Final Four. They head to Indianapolis. They take down Louisville, Florida, Illinois. Now, yes, Florida is the defending champs, and they have been electric down the stretch. They have looked very good. I love this Illinois team. They can absolutely lay it up from beyond the arc. They have big guys who can make a difference with the big Florida team. I think Illinois goes to the Final Four. I like this Illinois team. Shooting the lights out. I love the big guys. Keaton Wagler, outstanding player. Florida's been good. Yes, they've been good down the stretch. Very hard to repeat. I'm going with uh, sorry, I'm lost train of thought there. I'm going with Illinois to go to the Final Four. Arizona, Miami, Florida. Arizona's a better team. Miami, Florida's had a nice run. Maybe I guess you're Cinderella technically. They've had a nice run. They're not going to the Final Four. It'll be Arizona. And then coming out of the Michigan region, it'll be the Wolverines and the Tennessee Volunteers. Again, who else do you think I'm taking? It's going to be Michigan. They'll take down Tennessee. Nice run for the Volunteers, but it ends in Chicago. Michigan heads to Indianapolis to take on Arizona. So we have our Final Four, which will be Duke, Illinois, and Arizona, Michigan. We'll start on the left side with Duke and Illinois. And I did take Illinois this far, but arguably I think the best team in the country has been the Duke Blue Devils, and that remains the case. I still think now, even without I'm tried saying his name earlier. I think it's Ngamba or something like that. Patrick Ngamba. I hope I'm I hope I'm actually saying his name right. I'm probably not, but I'm gonna hope that's his name. And then Caleb Foster, of course, out as well. I do think that Duke will beat Illinois, though. It'll be a fun game, but I think the Blue Devils will knock off the Illini. They go to the championship game, and they will face the winner of Arizona and Michigan. And I am sorry, Wolverine fans, this is where the run ends. Arizona, I think, is a better team, actually. You got guard play beyond really, they got outstanding guard play between Berries and Jaden Bradley. You've got Koa Pete. You've got Krivas. I mean, the list goes on. You have elite freshmen with elite veterans. They have basically the perfect mix you could possibly want in a team. I really think them and Duke, I think, are the best teams in the country, and Michigan missing LJ Kaysen is hurts. Now, even with LJ Kaysen, it still would be a tough matchup, and I still think we would probably lose. But um, I think Arizona gets it done here. They move on to the championship game for what will be an electric matchup of freshmen between the Duke Blue Devils and the Arizona Wildcats. And my champion, I'm sure Swerve will love this because he can't stand Duke and he loves Arizona, is the Arizona Wildcats. Arizona wins the whole thing. Wildcats, just too much talent for people to deal with. You've got, like I said, you got Berries, you got Bradley, and you look at Jaden Bradley. This is a guy who was on a bunch of elite freshmen with Alabama. And you talk about how that team completely, collapsed in the tournament. They lost to San Diego State, and you know, obviously, it made a lot of us unhappy because pretty much everybody took Bama that year. But that Jaden Bradley was on that Bama team. He's got experience. So you got a guy with that kind of experience, with good freshmen, a good head coach, good size, good 3-point shooting. I mean, they're very well rounded. I think it's tough for anybody to beat these guys. Texas Tech got the better of them once, and then so did Kansas. Um, Texas Tech, I've mentioned earlier, is all over the place, and Kansas with Darren Peterson is something else. But both of those teams have giant question marks right now, and I'm just not sure anybody else can really do it. So I'm taking Arizona to go all the way. They win the whole thing. They win the national championship in Indianapolis in 2026. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. More of them coming out soon. We'll have MLB videos coming out next week where I'll be doing some reviews of all the teams before the season begins on that Wednesday, which will be the 25th, as there's only one game that day on Netflix for some reason. Don't really know why, but whatever. But that's it for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Until then, adios, everybody.